Welcome back to the Horror House. Today, we're going to do a bit of a sculpting session. We're going to do a half mask of what? I have no idea yet. I think we're just going to pound on the clay and just see what we come up with. I'll be using a flat wooden board with a piece of 4x4 kind of just nailed into it. I got to clean this off a little bit because there's still some residue from the last project I did a while ago. So we're gonna use this. I know I want to do something like a monster, um, more like with human anatomy, maybe like a troll or an ogre or something like that. But I want him to be chunky, like a chunky little bastard. And we'll be using WED Clay, of course. You can use any kind of clay you want, monster clay or whatever clay you prefer. And then once we do that, do a bit of a mold. Hopefully it works out better than my last one, because the last one, well, it failed. I lost the whole sculpt in the molding process. So that's why I'm doing this, just to get something out, right? Make a mold, and then hopefully that works out, and we can make a monster mask. More like a showpiece, right? Not to wear, just more to like display. If you want to see the painting process, I don't know if I'll cover it in this video, but if you do, let me know. Hit the like button, so I know you guys want to see the painting process of the mask that comes out of this. But let's get started. So first we're going to start by wetting the board and the piece of wood so this clay sticks. And then we're just going to hammer it right on. If you are using monster clay or any like oil-based clay, you can score the wood around it so that it sticks better. But for water-based clay, just spray it down with water and it should create like a nice vacuum. With a lot of my projects, I really don't know what I'm going to be making. Like, I don't come up with any concept. I don't draw it out. I like to go into it blind. Well, go into it with a kind of an idea, but not, fleshing anything out in 2D, not drawing anything. I was thinking, like, I wanted to make an ogre or a troll, something a little bit different, because I haven't done an ogre or a troll, a fantasy character, in a really long time. And as I started to add in the basic, bony landmarks with the cheeks and the brows, my creative mind started to see basically a troll kind of forming, right? So that's the kind of direction I started to go into. We started building up the cheekbones, the eyebrows, the nose, and then I decided, I want this. If it's gonna be a troll, I want him to be chunky. I really enjoy making chunky, obese characters. They're just a lot of fun because there's a lot of rolls, there's a lot of details, and if you make them older, you can add in a bunch of wrinkles as well. Wrinkles with fat can make a pretty cool character, even scary character. So this troll was going to be a pretty angry fellow. So I'm pushing down his eyebrows here, kind of give him that angry look. If you want to make him like sad, you would tilt the eyebrows backwards instead of downwards. Backwards instead of downwards. Here I'm adding in clay to represent where the gums are going to go. And this is not going to be a very symmetrical piece, because on this left side here, I wanted to make sure there's like a battle wound, like his gums were kind of like split. Maybe he got hit with a sword or an axe or something like that, right? And later on, I'm going to make a scar going up a little bit further, but there his gums are just split open. So we put in some of those cheek rolls, the nasolabial fold, I believe, and now we're putting in where the teeth are going to go. I'm going to add in like these like snaggly big to little teeth, right? He doesn't have a good dental plan, let's just say that. Pushing out the nose, he's going to have a bit of a bulbous nose here. We'll go back in later. But right now, it's all about just making the big shapes, right? Also just watering this down because it was getting a little dry. If you're using wet clay or wet clay, you want to make sure that you keep it nice and moist. That's key. With oil-based clay, you don't have to worry about that. But like I was saying, when you're building something up, you want to start with big shapes first, and then you work your way down to smaller shapes into the fine detail. A lot of the times I do notice when people are sculpting, they don't tend to do that. They tend to get into like the nitty gritty small detail and then it just doesn't look right. You can have amazing small detail, but if your big forms, big shapes are not correct, they don't look right, then no, doesn't matter, how much detail you put into that piece is not going to look good. So you want to make sure you get your big shapes in first. If you're building like a humanoid character like this, I forgot my light wasn't on, so I had to turn it on. If you're making a humanoid character like this, make sure you get like the basic shapes in there, the cheekbones, the jaw, eyebrows, all the bony landmarks. It's really gonna help. And once you follow the process and you get comfortable, you can start sculpting faster, and your pieces are gonna start to look even better than they were before. I was debating if I wanted to give this guy's ears because he's just like a half mask, but I caved in and decided to give him these like big old chunky ears. I was gonna go small, fat guy, small ears. It seemed fitting, but as I started to look at the piece, I just felt like, maybe this troll, he's got big ears. Why not? And here, we're just using a paintbrush with some water to water it down, smooth the shapes out. If you're using oil-based clay, you can use lighter fluid, or I like to use charcoal fluid. I find that the charcoal lighter fluid is a lot stronger, so it's really going to smooth out your piece pretty good. Adding in a bit of a tongue here, and then we're going to start working on the teeth. Like I said before, this guy doesn't have a dental plan, right? So he's going to have like these big old chunky teeth. He's going to have a snaggly tooth kind of up in that area where he has that wound right there. Like when he got chopped, maybe, a tooth started growing out that area for some reason, or that tooth just stuck. For the lower gums, I make these holes so it's easier to place the teeth in. And then I decided, yes, I'm going to give this troll some tusks. So I make some room for this tusk on this one side. It's going to be a full tusk. And then on his other side is going to be like a broken tusk. Maybe after his tussle with, I don't know, a human or something. You can make up stories for your characters, especially as you go, or before you make your character, you can make up a story. Sometimes that helps me. If I'm trying to plan out something, get some reference, and then I'll try and make up a story. But usually, as I'm sculpting these things, I tend to make up a story as I go. I just feel like it's a lot easier because you start to build this character out, and you start to see this character, then you start to go down the paths of like, what if? Like, what if this was a troll? What if this troll's had tusks? What if one of the tusks were broken? Right? Was he in a battle? Well, let's give him a split lip. It was a pretty harsh battle. He's weathered. He's been through some stuff. So making up stories is really great for character development, I think. I know a lot of people have troubles with sculpting eyes. I'm not the best at sculpting eyes, let me tell you that right now. But I do find that if you have a cylinder where the eyes are, to represent the eyeball, all you gotta do is roll up some little tubes and just place it around the eyeball there. You got the upper lid, and then you have the bottom lid. Reference is always key when it comes to eyes, right? Because I find once you put the eyes in, you can see if your character is good or not, right? Like right away you'll know. But I don't like that. Something's off. And with the eyes, it'll tell you. It'll tell you. Here we're moving into the ears. Ears, I don't find too terribly hard. I kind of enjoy sculpting ears. The way I think about it is like the ear is like a question mark, right? The outer ear looks like a question mark, and then the inner part's like a Y. So it's good to remember this little saying. The question is why. So you got the question mark of the ear, then the Y on the inside. And that's just the way I think about it. But again, using reference is a very good idea. And then using some water here to blend and smooth out all the shapes. Usually I don't really focus on raking, weirdly enough, but I'm trying to get into the habit of raking down my sculpts, smoothing things out. So here I'm just using kind of like a makeshift rake that I made with a saw blade. Raking kind of helps smooth out areas, pushes clay from, I believe, high points to small points, right? And it's really great for rounding out your big forms. So we start with this big rake here. Well, I'm calling it a big rake. And then we move into kind of like a finer rake made from a guitar string. So how you want to think about this is like using sandpaper, right? You start with like a rough grit and you get down to like a very fine grit. And then after using this, I use a sponge. The sponge with water is like a really fine rake and it just smooths out the rest of the sculpt and gets rid of all those tool marks. And once it's all smoothed out, well, then you got a really great base to start doing your detail, of course, right? That's what we want to get into. That's the fun part, when you get to do all like the small detail stuff. So using the sponge, you can also use the alcohol with the sponge. You know, if you have oil-based clay, lighter fluid, 99% isopropyl alcohol, that works as well. And then I'm just adding in like these gross little lumps on the skin. Like moles maybe, big moles, small moles, just kind of break it up a bit, you know. And then for the eyes, we're not done yet. The eyes have like this little fat thing on the corner, right? That kind of push over the eyelid a bit. So that's what I'm adding to the eyes here, and then kind of scraping out where that the eye fold is. There's a terminology for this. Can't remember the terminology. It's been a while. And then we're just smoothing it out with water, which really makes it pop. Adding in these little folds because, you know, he's angry. And when you make an angry face, you get these muscles that kind of squish, right? I forget what the muscles' names are. Precarious muscles, I think. But yeah, if you're having trouble with expressions, it's always good to use reference or take pictures of yourself in the mirror, being either happy or angry, and just see how the skin moves and all the muscles move as well. Now, you might find it weird to be taking pictures of yourself doing expressions, but animators have been doing this for a really long time. When they're trying to animate something, you know, they'll film themselves doing that animation so they have a reference. So if you're trying to do expressions, you know, it works pretty much the same way. I'm just doing a bit of cleanup on the gums here, raking out some corners. I'm trying to make these little lines where the tooths go in, and then you get this like little, I don't know, skin piece on the inside of your gums that holds your gums to like the bottom of your lips, and you have it in the top as well. And then we're just you know, cleaning out the gums a little bit, trying to add in a little bit of detail. And then for the nose, it was not bulbous at all. So a really good way to make this look really organic is you can just put on these little balls of clay. This will work with oil-based clay as well. Put on these little balls of clay, and then you'll take your water or your lighter fluid or whatever, and you just kind of paint it down, right? Smooth it down, and then you're gonna get this really good organic look to it. I don't have to use it just for the nose. You can use it anywhere where you want more of a rounded, organic look to it, I guess. After that, I'm using a heat gun to dry out the clay a little bit to start doing some fine detail work. When you dry out the clay, you don't want it to go so dry that it starts to crack, right? That's not good. Don't do that. You want it to be kind of like hard leather, right? And for oil-based clay, don't, because you'll melt your sculpture because it's oil-based, right? So if you're working with oil-based a lot, really using it, then it's going to be pretty soft. So what you can try doing is just, you know, step away from it for a little bit, let it cool down, or use some canned air, tip it upside down, and then freeze it to cool it off. And then you can get like some really, really fine detail. And here I'm just using a tool to, you know, scrape out some lines where I think fat folds would be, using the rule of cool. You know, if it looks cool and if it makes sense in my mind, then that's what I go with. And honestly, I feel like more people should follow the rule of cool. It doesn't have to look, you know, super anatomically correct, but if it looks cool and makes sense, then definitely go with it. Now we start to get into like the fine texture. I'm using this little ball stylus to kind of, add pores to the nose a little bit, and then we'll add some pores to the bottom of the chin. You can use any tool pretty much to create these little pores, but this ball style seems to work. I made this makeshift rake, not the best, but it creates those like scratches in your skin, I guess skin texture. So I use a combination of this, then I'll switch down to kind of like a smaller version of this for more precise, like in around the eyeballs, eyelids. We use it on the lips for the lip detail as well, but this is all about layering your detail if I want to make good skin texture. I'm still learning how to do good skin texture, and I feel like this is probably the best work I've done with skin texture. So using a rake like that, and then I got this cloth from the dollar store. I wetted it, and I just started pushing it into the clay, which created these really fine looking pores as well. It's a really good technique, very easy. Or if you really wanted to, you could take your time and go make like little pores with your tool, one at a time. Or if you're in a time crunch, you can just do it that way. I mean, either way works, right? And then for here, I wanted to add in kind of like a lip line, make the lips pop out a little bit more. Using a little straight line, a little bit more jagged. And then we'll take that some baby powder and a brush, and you brush it on, because when you're scraping clay, it creates these little balls. And I found a little technique where you use some baby powder and a brush, and it'll dry up those little balls of clay, and you just brush them off and they fall right off. And it worked amazingly. So I'm not sure if that'd work on oil-based clay, but you can try it. And then here I wanted to make more of like a cut, going up into the cheeks, like pretty gnarly, fleshy cut, because that left side got really messed up in the battle. And I just love doing these little details. It's so much fun. And after this lip detail, the sculpture's all done. I did not record the whole molding process because I didn't have time to film it, but we did the whole molding and it turned out great. All right, so the mold came out really well, and I just poured the latex into it. Right there, as you can see. Gonna let that cure for about 45 minutes. Last time I did a lot longer, but I'm just gonna try a shorter time. Get maybe a little bit of thinner skin, and then we're gonna drain it and pull it and see how it turned out. Check this out. It came out very, very nice. Little floppy, little. I don't know. I just love the smell of this latex. It's a nice smell. Unlike other cheaper latexes, it can be stinky, but yeah, this smells really good. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I seamed it already. I cleaned it up around the edges. The tusk, the big tusk there, it had a little bit of an air bubble, but I was able to fix it, which is great. And honestly, really minimal cleanup. Barely any air bubbles. I think just on the tusk, and that was it really. And then he had some boogers up his nose right there, and he came out perfect. I guess you could wear him. I don't know how that looks, but I guess you could wear him. But this again, I didn't put any places for any eyes just because it's gonna be more of like a display piece. Next thing is to clean him up and then paint him. I might do a separate video of that if you guys want to see that. Like I said, be sure to let me know. Big old chunky troll. Don't have a name for him yet, just the troll. If you guys have a name you want to give him, definitely let me know. And if you're interested in a copy, definitely let me know. I might, depending if people want to get one of these, put them up for sale or something. But let me know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next spooky video.